We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the Trend Zone. Dave here with Casey, and we are the football dudes. Are you ready, brother?
Always ready to talk football, my friend.
Next stop, the Trend Zone. It's Wednesday, October 25th. We're coming at you from Los Angeles, California. It is a beautiful, actually cooling off a bit down to 63 degrees as the sun is setting on the coastline there,
So
Casey.
cold.
Yeah, so very chilly, very chilly. In today's episode, we'll talk about the injury bug that keeps on biting, the return of in season hard knocks, and of course, all of the most incredibly awesome football games coming up this week. But before all that, Casey, do you have nugs for the people?
Always, always. You come hang with the dudes. It's nugs for everybody. And a theme that continues, dude. 10 of the 13 games within one score in the fourth quarter, with 8 of those games being decided by that one score. And this season, over 68% of the games have been within one score in the fourth quarter. It's coming down to the wire. And last week, 3 games decided by a game winning score in the final 2 minutes of regulation. It's
Wow.
close. It's tight.
It's every week, every week. So,
I love
all
it,
right,
baby.
folks. That's amazing. We all love the NFL for that reason, exactly. Tight games. All right, the Trend Zone now available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Casey, moving on to the top trending stories. And as usual, we have to start this, generally speaking, always with the rash of injuries that's going on. And there are a pretty good number of premier players that are suffering injuries that might keep them out.
Yeah, good news for Charger fan. Justin Fields is progressing, but he's probably not going to make it. The money badgent doesn't care. He's going to get that start in LA. Maybe he's got that strong arm just like Pops. Deshaun Watson, he's going to be out. Is it a shoulder? Is it a concussion? Maybe it's a concussed shoulder. I do not know. And it just came up a little bit ago. Brock Purdy's in the concussion protocol. I saw the hit where it happened in a Vikings game.
Mm-hmm.
He got smashed trying to dive over for that first down. Next play was an interception. I don't know how we missed it from the end of the game until Wednesday, but at least they found it. So it's probably going to be Sam Darnold going up against those Bengals. Jerome Ford, he left the Browns game with an ankle injury. Speaking of running backs, Bijan Robinson had a tummy ache. Somehow the Falcons didn't let anybody know about it. That's weird because they're supposed to disclose all that information. If I'm spending my ticket money to come see one of my favorite players and they know
Yep.
he's not going to play but don't tell, shady, folks, very shady. For the
Didn't help my
Packers,
fantasy score at all either, Casey,
no,
on a
right?
personal note.
You needed that information before kickoff. They should have given it to you. Christian Watson for the Packers. He's probably going to be out. He's got a knee injury. Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins. He's got a back injury. Luke Musgrave, the tight end for the Packers. Maybe back for week 10. And your guy, Gerald Everett, he's got a quad injury. They're hoping he'll be back for week 9. And for the Seahawks, linebacker Uchenna Nwosu, he is out for the season, dude. That is brutal.
Yeah, former Chacha, former Trojan too. Good guy. All right, Casey, moving along. The Hard Knocks in-season editions are back, and the NFL's got a surprise for us.
What does Little Orphan Annie have to do with the NFL, Dave? Oh, we're talking Hard Knocks, not a Hard Knock Life. Yeah, third straight season, NFL cameras and microphones getting in the locker room to follow a team mid-season. The Dolphins are going to be in that, and it'll be interesting to see how this goes with all the Super Bowl aspirations for these guys and what a sound bite the coaches down there in Miami. Love McDaniels on everything, dude. He is pretty awesome. So that is going to be delightful television.
Yeah, I got to admit though, McDaniel is kind of a character, so I
Mm-hmm.
think it will be interesting to hear some of the behind-the-scenes wackiness, his sense of humor, and all that stuff. And that team is
Definitely.
kicking butt, so it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see if I actually can tune in this time around. So,
I didn't
all right,
catch
Casey.
a episode of the Colts one last year, so we're gonna try though. We're gonna try, Dave.
Yeah. Please. Hopefully, I'll get sucked into this thing. All right, Case. Enough of this stuff. Let's get to what the people really come here for, and that is our previews for all of the NFL action coming up in Week 8.
What?
Said
What'd you say?
all the NFL action in week 8 here, Casey.
Week 8?
That's correct, sir. Week 8.
It's slipping away.
Yes, it is. Indeed, it is slipping
Oh
away,
my
but
God, we're almost at the halfway point, Dave. I'm
we're
freaking out.
almost at the halfway point. There is no official halfway point, but
Oh.
halfway point of the regular season approaching.
All
Whew.
right. I should get this going then, right?
Please do get us started
How
with Thursday night
about
football.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Buffalo Bills? And the Bills are 8.5-point favorites in this one.
All right. Well, the Bills are now 4-3. Interestingly, they've lost 2 of the last 3, including last week, losing 29-25 at New England. The offense played pretty well in the loss, though. Josh Allen passed for 265 and 3 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 58 yards, his 6th touchdown of the season. Dalton Kincaid continues to be impressive, setting career highs and catches with 8, receiving yards with 75 last week, and Cook led the team with 102 scrimmage yards. So, and he had his first TD catch of the season. So, all those things sound really good. They just let that game slip away right there at the end. You know, the offense very good statistically, 8th in yards, 3rd in points, 28 points per game, 3rd best on 3rd down. And they're just above average running the ball, but that's better than they were last year running the ball. And on defense, generally above average statistically. They're not quite as good as they were stats wise. But the
Mhm.
good thing is they're 5th in points given up and 2nd in sacks with 25. They got 14 takeaways. So those are some big money stats for you there. As a weakness, they are ranked just 23rd versus the run and 24th on 3rd down. Overall, the team is 2nd in net points with plus 80. So they're outscoring their opponents, generally speaking. When they win big.
Yeah, dude, you mentioned the Bills losing to the Patriots and these Bucks, they lost to the Falcons. Disappointing losses for both teams. And if the Bucks do win this game, it will be their first ever win in Buffalo, shockingly. Last week, Antoine Winfield Jr. almost came up with the game-saving play when he forced that Ritter fumble just as he was crossing the goal line. Tampa +7 in turnovers. And they're also ramping up rookie Kalasia Cansey's reps. Man, that defense has been solid and is definitely not the problem for the Bucks. Baker Mayfield leading the NFL through 7 weeks in passer rating on 3rd down, 3rd in
Nice.
completion percentage on 3rd down too. Additionally, when facing pressure, Baker is 2nd in the NFL in passer rating and 4th in completion percentage, but that's not translating into points. Those are nice numbers, and when you're signing your contract next year, that's going to look good. But these Bucks only 17.2 points a game, and part of the problem, they can't run the freaking ball. Just 77 yards per game. I guess luckily for the Bucks, Buffalo is not very good at stopping the run. They're hoping they can get Rachaad White going. Dude, just 266 yards or 3.2 per carry with a
Wow.
long run of only 13 yards on the season, man. They were not expecting that. Got to get the run game fixed if they want to compete in that NFC South.
All right, moving along to the early games on Sunday. We'll start it with the Texans at the Panthers. The Panthers on the road are favored by 3. Take it, Casey.
Yeah, battle of the top 2 quarterbacks drafted in the NFL draft last year. So far, CJ Stroud has played much better. He's taken care of the ball, only 1 interception on the season. Houston, as of right now, they're fully in the mix. Panthers, still looking for that first win. Bryce Young has not been great. He's getting better. The season's a wash for these Panthers, and they don't even have the first round draft pick next year because they traded it to the Bears. That is brutal.
Oof. Yeah, that is the
No.
brutal element of this is that they're not going to get to cash in on all those high picks in every
Mm-mm.
round, and that certainly, obviously, in the first round there. So brutal there.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Up next, Los Angeles Rams at my Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys 6.5-point favorites at home. That's high.
Okay, and this Rams team, I mean, depending on which one shows up, right, we're going to be a challenge for the Cowboys, or maybe not. The Rams are 3-4. And they lost last week 24-17 to the Steelers, which was very surprising to me, to be honest with you. The Rams,
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp back in the mix fully. But last week, they were down their 2 top running backs in Kieran Williams and Ryan Rivers. They're both on IR. It'll be a combo of Darrell Henderson, who rushed for 61 yards and a touchdown in the season debut last week, as well as Royce Freeman, who had 66 rushing yards last week as well. So they're not getting no productivity there. There's a little something there. Matt Stafford has just 7 TDs and 6 interceptions on the season with a passer rating of 82.3. So it seemed like he was really in a rhythm early on, and those numbers just don't support that, what it seemed to me initially.
Mhm.
He'll be tossing the ball, as I mentioned, to Cup, who, of course, is awesome. But Puka Nakua, the rookie, continues to dazzle. 8 catches, 154 yards last week, and he continues to set records. Last week, becoming the 4th player ever with 150 receiving yards in 2 of his first 7 career games in
Wow.
NFL history. So that's pretty amazing. Ranks 3rd in the NFL amongst all players with 752 receiving yards, and 2nd player ever besides Jamar Chase with 700 plus receiving yards in his first 7 games. So he's on a crazy pace right now. Tutu Atwell, Atwell also playing well. He had a TD last week. The Rams offense is still in the top half of the NFL in all the major statistics, including 6th in yards overall and passing. They're ranked 7th. So the defense, of course, led by Aaron Donald, they're generally above average, but the weak spot is they're just 20th against the run. And they're near the bottom of the league with just 12 sacks and just 5 takeaways. And they're going to want to do a better job this week in those categories to want to maybe slow down Dak and the boys.
Yeah, I think Aaron Donald and Zach Martin went back to back in that draft, 2 all-pro future Hall of Famers coming out of there. But Dallas is the
Interesting.
worst 4-2 team in the history of the NFL, Dave. Depends who you ask. Coming off a bye week after a must-win against your Chargers, that bye did come at a great time. This is the healthiest the Cowboys have been all season. Just one name on the injury report, safety Wanye Thomas, and he's still a full participant this week in practice. So far, the reviews on this Texas Coast offense haven't been great, although averaging 25.7 points a game, just down barely 2 points from last year, 27.5. So the
Is that
problem,
averaging just the offense or including that defensive barrage of scoring that we experienced along the way? I
it's
wonder.
points, Dave. Points count the same. They don't say, oh,
Okay.
how'd they get there? All right. But the problem is the red zone, 30th in red zone touchdown rate. And
Ooh,
other teams on a precipitous drop besides the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. But we're not going to talk about those guys' red zone problems, only the Cowboys, because they're so far behind those teams. But part of the problem has been drops. Cowboys 5th in the league with 11 drops, a lot of those coming in the red zone. They've also not been able to run the ball. In week 2 against the Cardinals, Tony Pollard, 23 for 122, 5.3 per carry. In every other game combined, 59 for 178, just at 3 yards a carry. It's not getting
yeah.
it done. And this week, lots of King Henry talk, which is nice. But in my opinion, the O-line just hasn't been good. You know, maybe they're going to get there. This weekend will be the 3rd straight game that it's had the starting 5 all intact. Martin missed some time in preseason with the holdout and then the injury, guys getting back. So hopefully they're working it out and it will be better. But I don't think there's any problems that can't be fixed. It's just getting that cohesion there. But they better get it done soon because we got those stupid Eagles next week. Defensively, 5th overall, number 3 against the pass, but 18th against the run. That scares me a little bit against these Rams who are starting to run the ball a little bit more. 4th in scoring at under 17 a game. They signed Rashaan Evans to help fill the void of losing Leighton Vander Esch. And if they can stop the run, that might be bad news for Matt Stafford. He's already been sacked 18 times, and
Ooh.
Dallas has 16 sacks and 12 takeaways. Stafford's had a few interceptions as well. But if these boys don't tackle, they're going to be in trouble. Speaking of tackling well, Dave, DeMarcus Ware will be inducted into the Cowboys Ring of Honor at halftime. More good news. Mike McCarthy at 11-5 following bye weeks. This team is a work in progress, but as long as they get better, it's all good. Our goal is to be playing our best football in January and February. It's
Yeah.
October, man. We got time. Pump the brakes a little bit. Everything is going to be okay, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Every team is a work in progress at this point. And like you said, you absolutely don't want to be peaking right now.
Mm-mm.
You want to be,
Remember last
it,
year when the Bills came out week 1? We're like, oh my God, dude.
yeah,
They looked insane and then they lost it.
right.
Yeah, let's
You
build.
need
It's
that
a long season.
adversity along the way. It builds
Yeah.
character, blah, blah, blah. But, you want to win every game, but, it's the NFL, right?
Yeah, right? Let's keep it going towards the big time goals. It's a
Yep.
marathon, people. All right, Dave, up next, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. And the The Vikings are 1-point favorites in this one.
Ooh, that's crazy. Okay, well, yeah. After an 0-3 start, the Vikings had a signature win beating the 49ers on Monday Night Football last week. Vikings obviously got their season turned around here. Call off the trade deadline fire sale for the Vikings. They've won 2 in a row and 3 of the last 4, and they are alive and well at 3-4 right now and in second place in the division, certainly in the wild card mix, if not a threat to division to Detroit, who's right in front of them in the division. At 2-4, however, the Pack are not too far behind either, especially if they can get a win this weekend. Right. Unfortunately, the Pack are headed the other direction, though, having lost 3 straight and coming off that loss to Denver last week.
Ugh.
Probably feeling like they hit rock bottom at this point, Packer fan and and players and coaching staff. Both teams, obviously, it's divisional. They need it very badly. Neither team can afford to drop this game right now.
And these Vikings, their problem had just been the turnovers. They've started to clean
Huh?
that up a little bit. They were +2 on Monday night. They got the win. I see where it's
Interesting,
going. Yep.
right? All
Yep.
right, up next case, it's the Saints at the Colts. This one has evened out. It is a pick 'em. Talk
That's
about it.
our first pick 'em of the year, right?
Yep, sure is.
Nice. Dude, these Colts got jobbed by the refs last week. At least the NFL
Oh
came out and said, "Oh, sorry. Did we screw you guys over late in that game and take a win? Our bad. How did that happen?"
man,
So I don't know if that makes you feel better as a Colt fan or not, but it definitely sucks because they should have won that game. And these Colts, man, they are showing signs of life. This is a very talented roster, especially getting a healthy JT back. Last week, these Saints showed a lot of fight, but they started too slow. They also need help in the run game, and they're not getting their usual output from Alvin Kamara in the pass game. This year, just 5.1 per reception. That's a career low. Last year, he was 8.6 receptions. So I
hmm.
don't know if they're still working everything out with that offense and getting Carr, up to speed, but just not getting what they want out of Kamara. But this is a very winnable game. But I guess I like the Colton is at home. The Minshew's, with that sweet stash and
Yeah,
just the
I
fight they
know the
showed
Minshew
last week.
magic. It's just it's feverish, right? You get
Yeah.
exciting. It's a really good Saints defense that he's going to go against. But hey, that was a great defense last week that he played against too, and he did a nice job. They deserve to win that game. You're absolutely right.
All right. Up next, Dave, we have the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins are 9-point favorites in this one.
And how about these Patriots? I listened to last
They're
week's
dead.
show. We did not give them any love at all. Okay, but I'll
Was
tell you
that
what.
wrong of us?
I don't know. It seemed the thing to do at the time, Casey, but Patriots had a huge win last week, driving 75 yards in under 2 minutes to get the game-winning TD. A toss from Mac Jones to Mike Gesicki to beat the Bills, man. What a game. That broke a 3-game losing streak and elevated the Pats to 2-5. Still a long way to go, but those are the kind of wins that go a long way for a team's confidence,
Mhm.
right? And obviously, we finally got that 300th regular season win for Bill Belichick. Enter the Dolphins, who are coming off a loss to the Eagles, and they are not lacking in confidence either, the way they've been scoring all year long. The Dolphins lead the NFL in total offense, scoring offense at over 34 points a game. This will be a battle between the old master in Bill Belichick and the boy genius in Mike McDaniel. It's going to be exciting to see those guys go at it.
Yeah, that's going to be good stuff. And if somehow the Patriots can figure out a way to win this game, all of a sudden, man, all bets are off in that wacky AFC East. Wow.
Whoo, no kidding. It's going to be exciting. Okay, up next, it is the New York Jets are traveling, I guess, traveling to the New York Giants. It is a home game for the Giants. The Jets on the road here, technically, are favored by 3 in the Battle of New York.
Hey, it's really a battle for Jersey. Oh, Tyrod was that offensive spark, but or maybe it was the healthy Saquon Barkley, maybe a little bit both, but that defense really starting to flash. The G-Men's played really good football in back-to-back games. Almost beat the Bills 2 weeks ago, did beat the Commandos last week, but the Jets have been playing pretty good too. They have 2 wins in a row. And Zach Wilson, only one interception in his last 4 games, but also only 2 touchdowns in his last 4 games. You need more of those. Um, but I'm thinking that Jets pass rush should be the difference, pressuring quarterbacks at 37% rate. And that's without blitzing. That's fourth best, just blitzing under 19% of the time. Giants have allowed 37 sacks. Dave, forget about it. Ooh.
I tell you,
The wheels will
it's
come
going to be
off.
interesting to see the Jets if they can get it cranking up here against their hometown rivals here.
Yeah, it should be good. All right, Dave, up next, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Jags are 2.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, I apologize in advance to Steeler fan because it's hard for me to come up with a lot of awesome stuff except they're 4-2. Okay. Coming off a road win, beating the Rams 24-17. They have a record that's winning, obviously, at 4-2, despite being negative 24 in the points differential. Pitt's also statistically one of the worst offenses and defenses in the league. On offense, they're 31st in yard and 26th in points at just over 17 points a game. With 5 TDs and 4 interceptions, Pickett is ranked 25th in passer rating, and their offense is just 25th in passing overall. So they're even worse rushing, ranking 28th. The Steelers rank 28th in rushing yards per game at just over 80 yards per game. On a positive note, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren each had their first rushing touchdowns of the season last week. And on defense, I mentioned they're not very good there either. Surprisingly for the Steelers squad, they are ranked 30th in yards,
Wow.
17th in points given up at over 21 a game. And they're the good news. Here it is. They're +6 in the turnover ratio. They've got 12 takeaways. They have perfected the art of the ugly win. And if they can somehow turn this game into an ugly game, then they've got a decent chance at another win.
And they have TJ Watt, which never
And
hurts.
they do have TJ Watt.
These Jags, though, after losing to the Texans, they've won 4 games in a row, and they look like it's all coming together for them. They did
Mm-hmm.
almost let it slip away last week against the Saints, but they didn't. And Jags, fourth in total defense, fourth against the run, but only uh, 9 interceptions, and Josh Allen putting together a very strong season, 7 sacks, 6 TFLs, dude. But
Wow.
it's the offense that I'm starting to really dig here. Trevor Lawrence taking care of the football. But Travis Etienne, dude, this cat is really starting to shine. Over 500 rushing yards and almost 200 receiving yards. And Dave, count them, 2 touchdowns in each of his last 3 games. If the Jags don't make mistakes, they'll beat these Pittsburgh Steelers. But these Pittsburgh Steelers make you make mistakes.
That's
So
right.
every time we want to count the Steelers out, they somehow come up with a win. It's going to be tough sledding for those guys on Sunday, though.
Yeah, no doubt. How about Jackson sitting at 5-2 right now? If they can punch this W and get to 6-2, I believe their bye is coming up next week.
Yeah, it's next. And it's
Like,
San Francisco the week after that. So you're feeling pretty good, 6-2. You got all that England travel crap out of the way.
yeah,
Time to rest. Duval.
oh yeah, they'd be sniffing around that number 1 seed down the road there. I got to take a glance at that schedule further down the road, but they're in pretty good shape right now, man. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
All right, up next, Casey, it's the Falcons at the Titans. The Falcons are favored by 3.
Yeah, and these Falcons, they stole a win from the Bucks last week, and they're all alone in first place in the NFC South, despite a negative 18-point differential. No word yet on if Bijan still has that tummy ache from last week. We'll see if he plays, if the Falcons let us know either way. But Dave, this Titans team might look a lot different next week at this time with the trade deadline coming up
Good
on
point.
Halloween. The rumors of the fire sale are really starting to reverberate very loudly. Most likely a combo of Will Levis and Malik Willis at quarterback on Sunday. Speaking of looking different, the Titans will be wearing the Houston Oilers throwback on Sunday.
Oh,
One of the
sweet.
best uniforms ever. That alone is reason to tune in to that game just to see that.
Nice. Fantastic, man. I'm definitely tuning in for that. That stokes me out, dude.
You were tuning in anyways, Dave, but that's just a
You're right.
little extra. So you would
Would
have been there.
have been nice if the
All
Falcons were wearing their throwbacks on the same day because those
Oh
Falcons
yeah,
ones
that
are
would
pretty
be
nice too.
great, dude. Oh, but those Oilers unis are so dope. I miss seeing them in the mix.
Absolutely.
Oh, all right, Dave. An NFC East battle up next. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commandos, and these Eagles are 6.5-point favorites.
Yeah, and it's a rematch of Week 4 overtime Philadelphia win in Philadelphia. So this was a tight game earlier in the season. Commanders lost to the Giants last week to drop to 3-4. Very disappointing there. But Sam Howell has played well. He passed for 249 yards last week. Has strung together some decent play at the quarterback position. In the Week 4 meeting at Philadelphia, Howell passed for 290 and a touchdown with no picks. So that's kind of good enough to be in there playing some ball with them. Wide receivers all contributing. Terry McLaurin had 6 catches for 90 yards last week. Kurt Samuel rushed for a TD in the Week 4 meeting in Philly, and Jahan Dotson had 5 catches last week and had a receiving touchdown in that Week 4 meeting. So they're going to be a challenge for these Eagles. They're going to pose a challenge to some degree. They're going to need more of that kind of productivity, though, because the Washington offense has not run the ball well still. 86 yards per game. That's 26 in rushing, and they're the second worst in the league on third down offensively at under 30% conversion rate on third down. You're not keeping the ball away from that Eagles team when you're punting all the time on fourth down because you couldn't convert on third. Defense is surprisingly not as good as we thought they'd be. They're 28th in yards, 29th in points given up, and that's over 27 points a game that they're giving up. So good luck, Commandos. Here come the Eagles. You better convert on some third downs and put some points on the board.
Yeah, and if you ask Micah, these Eagles are the best team in the NFL, and it's actually be hard to argue that they're not. 6-1. You mentioned earlier they dismantled the Dolphins, and Jalen Hurts isn't even playing his best football. Already 8 interceptions on the season, and it hasn't mattered one bit. I was gonna say it hasn't even hurts them, but I didn't.
Well, it did kind of matter in that game they threw away, Casey, when he tossed up a bunch of picks, but
Well,
you
yeah,
want
last week, but yeah, I hear you. But hurts is where I was going with that, Dave.
yeah,
Come on, man.
clever. Okay,
AJ
clever.
Brown definitely hurting other teams. See, you stepped all over my joke, and now it didn't. But no, seriously, AJ Brown, 5 games in a row with at least 127 yards receiving on the season already, 75 for 809 and 3 touchdowns. I guess when he was all disgruntled, yelling at Jalen on the sideline, it flipped the switch because that guy is balling and such a balanced
True.
team. Top 3 offense, top 4 rushing, top 10 passing. One of the best offensive lines in the league, and they're unstoppable on third or fourth down and 1. You just can't do
Oof.
it. They'll go for it inside their own 20 if it's only 1 yard. Bad news. They're also pretty good on defense too. Number 1 against the run, 24 sacks, 37 TFLs already. And it still blows my mind that Arizona let Hassan Reddick get away, dude. He's got 5.5 sacks and
Unbelievable.
7 of those TFLs. The defensive front, freaking brutal, dude. Jalen Carter, absolute monster. Now, it also helps that the Eagles have scored on their first possession 6 times in 7 games. They get a lead, and then they let that defense go to work. Pretty good formula. I guess it also helps when your opponent commits 10 penalties and you don't commit one. Not even one penalty in that game. 10-1. Wow.
Wow. Got to question some of the refereeing out there, Casey. Behind the scenes, there some strings being pulled.
10-0.
No conspiracies here. No, we're not talking any of that nonsense. Okay, moving along to the late game, Casey. Late slate of games, that is. We'll get it started with the Browns at the Seahawks. Seahawks at home favored by 3.5 in this one.
Yeah, we still don't know if DK Metcalf is going to play on Sunday. That's a total bummer for fantasy managers, but totally awesome for Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jake Bobo. JSN 4 for 63 and a TD last week. Bobo 4 for 61 and a TD. That's a very good Cleveland defense over there. So they're going to have to keep Geno clean and try to get Kenneth Walker III going early. They did lose edge rusher Uchenna Nwosu, which we talked about earlier, but they're also bringing back Frank Clark. We thought it was a done deal, him going to the Chiefs. Nope, he decided to go back to Seattle. He's going to help fill that void, the loss of Nwosu. The Hawks, 3 or more sacks in 4 straight games. And rookie Devin Witherspoon, dude. This cat, you got him with the Russell Wilson picks,
Yep.
and it's been totally awesome. He's looking into stay in that lead for the defensive rookie of the year. He had another great game, and if you're into PFF, he is the top-rated defensive back. They should stack the box, force PJ Walker and that 31st ranked pass attack to try to beat them. These Hawks held Arizona scoreless in the second half of last week's game and have held 3 straight opponents to under 250 yards of total offense. If they just take care of the football, then they're going to be fine. Oh, speaking of fine, the Hawks are wearing those fine ass 90s era throwback unis for the first time, too. Sweet. Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
uniform geek.
yeah.
I'm proud of it. I love that stuff. Come on.
No doubt. That'll take me back to when the Seahawks were part of the AFC West for all those years, since when they joined the league in 76. Oh, my childhood. Okay, let's talk about these Browns. Casey came into the game on a coming to this game rather on a 2-game winning streak, including an impressive win 2 weeks ago against the 49ers, and then last week eking one out against Indy, as we mentioned, with a lot of help from the officials. And once again, Deshaun Watson was injured. On the season, just 4 touchdowns and 3 picks for Deshaun Watson, though. So he has hardly played, and he hasn't played all that well with the passer rating of 80.9. So he's out heading into this week. That has just been announced. It'll be PJ Walker, who had 178 yards passing last week. Good news, they can run the ball, this team with a great offensive line. But Jerome Ford led the team last week with 94 scrimmage yards. Most of it, though, was on that 169-yard TD run. That's the 3rd longest run of the season. And he was also injured in that game, so he's doubtful for this one. So good news, Kareem Hunt's on the squad ever since Chubby got lost. And he had 2 touchdowns last week. So he knows the scheme. He knows how to play with this group, and he should be productive. The offense for the Browns is 19th in yards and also on 3rd down. So not great. And 31st on passing. You mentioned, I believe, how they are not a great passing squad right now. They are a strong run team, ranking 2nd in the league and scoring over 22 points a game, which is above league average. And they're just 30th on 3rd down, though. So difficult time converting on 3rd down. Defense, we mentioned, obviously, this is one of the top defenses in the league. 10th in points, though, now at 19.2. 1st in yards and versus the pass, 7th versus the run. So very solid across the board. They're going to need to get a solid performance out of that defensive unit and find a way to put some points on the board offensively if they want to get another W this weekend in Seattle. It's going to be a tough one.
It's going to be a good game.
All right, up next, Casey, it is the Ravens at the Cardinals. The Ravens on the road are favored by 8.5.
Yeah, Dave, and this bird battle should not be close. However, the Super Bowl curse has been real, and people talking about the Ravens being the best team in the NFL, that's been the kiss of death the last few weeks. We'll see if that
That's
trend
right.
continues. Some good news for the Cardinals, at least. Kyler Murray took some 1st and 2nd team reps in practice last week. Head coach Jonathan Gannon did not rule Murray out for Sunday, but I'm assuming they're not going to rush him back to get there just to face these Ravens. And on offense, dude, these Ravens are putting it all together. Lamar's looking at another MVP type season, and their defense is pretty good too. So, bloodbath, bird battle, bloodbath.
No doubt that Ravens offense was clicking last week. So if they can keep that going, that talk is going to keep
Yeah.
continuing for them.
And that was the Lions, and these are the Cardinals. Ugh.
Hmm.
All right, Dave, up next, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos, and the Chiefs are 7.5-point favorites on the road.
All right. Well, the Chiefs had not had a breakout performance offensively this year. That is until they got a chance to play the Chargers defense last week. And yeah, they racked up a ton of yards. Mahomes set season highs in completions with 32, completion percent at over 76, passing yards at 424, and 4 touchdown passes with a 129.5 rating last week. Kelsey a season high 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown last week. He was open on every play. The 6-1 Chiefs are in commanding control of the AFC West and are currently the top seed in the AFC. Then there's the Broncos at 2-5. They're coming off a home win versus Green Bay, so good news for them. Russell was pretty good, actually, 20 of 29, 194 yards and a touchdown. No picks, not bad. He has the offense playing a little bit better there. I've got to give him credit. It's the Broncos defense that's really something to be
Ugh.
concerned about, ranking 32nd in yards and versus the run, 31st in points, at 31 points per game given up, and 30th versus the pass. There's really no bright spot in there that you can find, considering the any given Sunday theory, though, the fact that it is divisional and the Broncos are at home, we can only hope for a decent game. With a win, though, Mahomes would be 13-0 against the Broncos. That's a pretty 13-0, 13 straight wins, having never
Ugh.
lost in his entire career to the Broncos.
It's got to happen at some point, but I don't know when.
This weekend? All right.
Maybe, I don't know.
No.
Doubt
All
it.
right. Next up, it's the Bengals at the 49ers. 49ers at home are favored by 3.5 in this one, Casey. This is a rematch of Super Bowl that we've seen twice. The first time it was in 1982, Super Bowl 16. The 49ers were up 20-0 at half and never looked back. They did beat the Bengals 26-21 in that one. The second time, Super Bowl 23, that was where 49ers receiver John Taylor hauled in a 10-yard strike from quarterback Joe Montana, former Notre Damer, with 34 seconds left to lift the 49ers above the Bengals with a 20-16 victory. That also comes with the John Kennedy story on that last drive as they were getting in the huddle. Some of those offensive linemen, one in particular, was freaking out. And John Candy was somewhere in the end zone area, not that far away. Joe Montana said, "Hey, isn't that John Candy over there?" Everybody looked around, and it was John Candy. And they said, it just lightened the mood. And then they said, "Let's go win this thing." And they did.
Oh, man. And Dave, that Super Bowl 16 in an alternate universe, it was my Cowboys stomping your Chargers.
Oh, that would have been fun. Maybe.
Oh, the catch that I'll never forget, and the
Woo.
frostbite that Dan Fouts will never forget in your AFC title game. But Dave,
Yep.
maybe this is going to be a Super Bowl matchup we see for a third time. The Niners coming off back losses, and it's hard to not overreact, but the sky is definitely not falling. We just heard the news that Brock Purdy won't be playing in this game, most likely. But even with him out, in reality, dude, these Niners are a couple missed field goals away from being undefeated. So I'm not freaking out on them. But if they do drop 3 in a row, it might be time for a more serious conversation. Although if Purdy doesn't play, there's a
You mean a
built-in
fire sale?
excuse.
Trade everybody,
Yeah.
Casey?
Get rid of McCaffrey. We'll take Kittle. I guess we can get, Fred Warner. If you really want to let him go, we'll take him. Oh my God. But dude, all the fantasy football players that got cute and drafted Jetta or Chase over McCaffrey, they might be looking for a DeLorean to try to go back to 1982 or whatever, because CMC, even with a below average game on Monday night, 15 carries for 45 yards, that's not good. Add a touchdown and add 51 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. That's 16
Okay.
games in a row with at least one touchdown, dude. This cat, I don't know how they hornswoggled Carolina, but dude, they're
Yeah.
doing something right there. Last week, though, Brock Purdy, 2 very costly interceptions. Him being gone here, and maybe Sam Darnold, that might make Kyle lean on the San Francisco run game, since he giving up over 140 on the ground. So that's probably not a bad idea anyways. Defensively, another killer game by Fred Warner, 13 total tackles and a TFL and a pass defended. He was also epic in those 2 goal line stands. But Cousins shredded this 49er defense, 378 and 2 touchdowns through the air, only 1 sack. So if Joe Shiesty is probably licking his chops back there saying, wait a minute, if they can't sack me and I can throw, it is going to be a huge game for Chase. So if they can block for Joe, it's going to be a long night potentially for these 49ers. No panic yet. They have their bye week coming up too, but these Niners do not want to be riding a 3-game losing streak into a bye week. It's a big game for both these teams. Cincy losing a couple games early, starting to round into form, show you're back by beating these Niners.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Casey. And Burrow and the Bengals coming off their bye, they're working their way back after that rough start that you mentioned. Certainly Burrow, when the calf injury contributed to that slow start. After a 1-3 start, they're now sitting at 3-3 though, and just a game and a half back from the division lead. However, they are 0-2 divisionally, so it's a big game for them. Joe Burrow last week, 185 was actually 2 weeks ago, coming off their bye, 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, so playing pretty well there. Still kind of modest numbers for Burrow. Um, and, uh, the Cincy offense has really yet to statistically emerge from that ineffective start. That was such a bad start to the season. They're actually still last in total offense statistically right
Wow.
now, near the bottom in passing, second to last in rushing, and averaging under 17 points a game. Although the last couple of games, they've put some more points on the board. Defensively, they've been struggling too. They're 27th in yards given up, fourth worst versus the run. On a positive note, they are +5 in the turnover ratio, and they have 8 takeaways. So, um, like you said, this game's got an interesting flavor to it now that we find that Purdy is not going to be playing, and it's going to be Sam Darnold in all likelihood. Um, I guess a little reunion of the Panthers over there on the Niners side, right, between those
Yeah.
guys. But it'll be very interesting to see. That defense for the Niners is going to have to play some stout football to kind of keep Sam Darnold and that offense kind of in the situation where they don't
Yeah.
feel pressured, right?
Very interesting matchup there, especially with all the intangibles now with the Darnold news. All right, Dave, a little Sunday night football right here in Los Angeles. It's the Chicago Bears and your Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers, 9-point favorites. React.
That's right. Show me your lightning bolts. The Bears are 2-5, coming off their second win of the season last week, beating the Raiders 30-12, an impressive victory. Justin Fields, however, dislocated his thumb back a couple weeks. He'll miss this game as well. So it'll be Tyson Bagent for his second start of his career, the undrafted rookie. Uh, he was 21 of 29 for 72+% and 160 yards in the TD. Modest but very efficient in both the games that he played in relief in Fields and the one that he started. Also, Deontay Foreman was amazing, 120 yards from scrimmage and 3 touchdowns last week. The Chargers are on a 2-game losing streak that has them dropped to 2-4. And last week, the already much maligned LA defense was eviscerated by Mahomes, Kelsey, and the Chiefs. They have got to play better. And in fact, it's nearly impossible for their defense to play worse. So the Chargers have played well on both sides of the football in stretches, but they have not been able to put together a complete game. And if they're going to do anything this season, it has to start with beating a less talented Bears team with an undrafted rookie backup quarterback at the helm. The Chargers desperately need to win this game at home on Sunday Night Football. They got to take care of this one.
Yeah, at some point, something's got to change. They're close in all these games, losing by a few points. That's only going to go so much further. They got to start winning those close
Yeah.
games. Very
Yep.
talented roster. Just got to put it all together, man.
All right. It's Monday Night Football, Casey, and it is the Raiders at the Lions. Lions are favored by 8.5 in this one.
And dude, what the hell are the Raiders doing? This is a rudderless pirate ship roaming lost in a sea of sand. Ahoy, mateys, Darby Whiskey Pete's and an $8 ribeye. But the shrimp in that 99-cent shrimp cocktail do not look fresh. Where do I begin
Oh,
on this, dude? I mean,
man.
I guess since the Raiders weren't yet officially eliminated from playoff contention, they started Brian Hoyer over Aiden O'Connell. But why, dude? No
Oh,
offense to Hoyer, but his 2
yeah.
interceptions, including a pick 6, he is not, was not, will not be the answer there, dude. At least
Mm-mm.
AOC was able to find the end zone in the fourth quarter, but still, touchdowns are touchdowns. 2 of 9 on third down. They lost time of possession by over 7 minutes. Josh Jacobs, dude, 11 for 35 on the season, 118 for only 347 yards. That's less than 3 yards a carry, dude. This was the leading rusher in the NFL last year, man. I
Wow. I
have
know.
no faith in Josh McDaniels. I can only imagine what Raider fan must be feeling. I'm pissed off about it, and I don't care about the Raiders at all. But this is a bunch of bullcrap, dude. Even more anger, rage, and sadness than usual for Raider fan. I say liberate Crosby. I say liberate Devontae. Get some draft capital. Clear out this stinking coaching staff and start fresh. Dave, Raider fan, did say the Super Bowl goes through Vegas this year. They were not wrong. They just thought the Raiders would be there, but they won't.
Well said, Casey. Uh, I would like to pile on, but I think you've done an effective job there. Moving on to the Lions. 4-game win streak came to a crashing halt last week as they were absolutely clobbered by the Raiders 38-6, dropping them to 5-2. Still a 2-game lead, though, in the division. So feeling pretty good about that overall big picture. Despite the lopsided loss, Jared Goff played pretty well, 285 yards passing. He ranks fifth in the NFL with 1,902 pass yards on the season. Montgomery missed last week, and his absence was felt by the offense for sure. We talked about it while we were watching the game. He's listed as questionable for this one, so we don't know his status at this point. But they also lost running back Mohamed Ibrahim last week. He'll be out for a while. I don't know, a hip. Maybe he had a surgery on that, so I believe he may be out for the season. I'm not sure. Though Jahmyr Gibbs was supposed to be maybe a question mark at best last week. He ended up playing 65 of 75 snaps and had 126 yards from scrimmage and touchdown. So list him as questionable every week for crying
Yeah,
out
right.
loud. That was a great performance. I'm on Ross St. Brown, a career high 13 receptions in this loss
Wow.
for 102 yards. Sam Laporta continues to do his magic with 6 catches and 52 yards last week. So sounded like they played well enough to win, but
Yeah.
they didn't put any points on the board, right? You need
Wow.
scoring, obviously, in this league to get W's. The offense is 4th in yards and 4th in passing, 11th in rushing, and 8th in points, scoring normally almost 25 points a game, despite having only scored 6 points last week. This year, the defense, again, much improved. We've talked about it all year long. They're 11th in yards. They're second versus the run, and they're 5th on third down. So those
Wow.
are some money stats right there. Stopping the run and stopping teams on third down. The Lions need this W at home versus the Raiders, and they need to get back on track.
Yeah, dude, you always want to win every game, but I
Yeah.
think Dan Campbell's embracing getting the crap kicked out of you to kind of refocus and get everybody back to realizing, hey, you can't just show up every week. You got to bring it, and you're always a game away from looking like total crap. So
Yep.
overall,
Yep.
I think that's going to be a good thing. Even better, you got the Raiders coming to town on Monday night.
No question. Should be a bounce back week for the Lions, right? On
That's right.
Monday Night
Restore the
Football.
roar.
All right. All right, folks. So many ways you can check out the Football Dudes Trend Zone, the podcast you are listening to now, available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Football Dudes LA, and make sure you tag us across all social media platforms.
Or just head on over to footballdudes.com. It's all there for you. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football, we're the dudes that know football. For Casey, I'm Dave, and we are out of here.